What's your question? What do you want to know about RV living or hula hooping or shifting from an RV to a van lifestyle or work from the road or whatever it is that had you click and become a follower here? I noticed yesterday that I've had several hundred people start to follow in the last couple of weeks, and so I'm just curious, what has you following and what questions can I answer? In other words, look, I watch hundreds, thousands of videos about people RVing and now van lifers, because I've got this big 30-foot Class C RV. I mean, it's big to me. It's not big for people who have a 40-foot bus, but for me, it's plenty big enough for one person, and I'm actually really on the verge of pulling the trigger on downsizing to a van. Because look, so here, let me flip this around. For those of you who are new, let me give you a little bit of a tour of the rig and talk to you a little bit about how I can answer questions for you so that you can do that which you're wanting to do by watching all these videos too. So this is my RV. I took the couch out a couple months ago and put this really cool desk in, so I have desk space. I've got a solar battery pack that I use for the plug over here because I don't have a plug over here, and because of that I put the dinette down and made a day bed out of it. So really I've got two of these big beds for just one person and one dog. And at the end of the day, 8 miles to the gallon and where you're going to park, and there's nothing stealth about this, etc., has me wanting to get something smaller. And I've actually seen a lot of people in my doom scrolling, or learn scrolling as I like to think of it, that have gone from a big rig to a van. In other words, you might think that sometimes people get on the road in a car or a van and then they realize they don't have enough room and they upsize and they upgrade and all those things. But some of us spend over 4 years on the road and realize, I really don't even need this much space. I actually could be a lot more nimble. I actually could remove any issues about plumbing or black water tanks and emptying them, and where do I dump them, and what if the pipes freeze, or the water pump could go down, etc. So I want to find out what questions you guys have. I love teaching, I love mentoring, I love helping people to step out of their comfort zone, or better said, enhance, expand. Make that comfort zone as big as the country so that you can feel comfortable moving forward and doing the do. Do it. You just do it too. Do it, lady. As this new guy that I'm watching, Chit, says, do it, lady. So what are your questions? What's holding you back from living this lifestyle? Because when people do me the honor of clicking submit, subscribe, follow, friend, whatever it is, I want to give them value. So let's answer questions. It could be about how to dump the poo. It could be about how did you find your RV. It could be about what Class A, Class B, Class C, fifth wheel, van, what's the difference? How do I choose? It could be, what does it cost you every month to live that way? It could be about my membership with 1,000 Trails, because people are, it's like Apple versus Android. People are either loving 1,000 Trails or they just shit all over it. So it could be, how do you stay safe on the road as a solo female? It could be, let me show you my baby. It could be, how do you travel with your pupper dog? By the way, I was at a farmer's market the other day and they had dog grass, which is basically just wheat grass. And she loves grass so much. She eats so much grass, she's like a cow. So I got her that little thing of real grass and she won't even touch it. It could be questions like, how do you store stuff? What's up in that attic of yours? Hey Cammie, what are the things that you're getting to get ready to downsize into a van? I already have my my solar panel. I got a solar panel and a solar battery. They call it a solar generator, but that's misleading. I can do a video on that. Why do they call it a solar generator, and how do they work? You know, last year, you know, every time you start to go down a new rabbit hole, you learn a whole new set of skills. So last year, I was working at an RV resort where this couple had a van, and they worked at the park, and they now had a pull-behind trailer, but they had lived in their van before. And I thought, God, how would you live in a van? I can't even imagine. Poor guy living in a van. But now I see it so completely different. And so I didn't know anything about solar. I thought I had to have this really intense, professionally installed, blah, blah, blah solar. And then when I learned that these actually have a 30 amp plug on the front, you can get one with a 30 amp plug, so I can plug this whole rig into that one battery. I didn't know you could do that. So then I learned about solar generators, solar batteries, and how simple they really are. And you don't have to install some big $5,000, $10,000 setup inside your rig, whatever rig that is. You can have a portable one. I just pull the little suitcase thing out and pull that bad boy out of here and put it in a house, or use it on a farm, or bring it to my van. Because here I've got shore power, I've got plugs, I've got the whole thing obviously is wired. But in a van, I don't have to worry about doing all that. I can just have that as my power source. I'm learning about DC to DC conversion. In other words, right now I charge that either through solar or through plugging it into shore power, which is good old-fashioned plug. But I can also charge it DC to DC. And I'm learning about that. I went down the rabbit hole of learning about composting toilets. I had no idea. I didn't know how they worked. I had no idea. But after I went down the rabbit hole, I now have a composting toilet, and I know how simple they are. And when I'm on the road, you know, if I'm going for days and days or a couple of weeks between RV resorts, I don't use my regular toilet and fill up my black tank and have to smell it and where am I going to dump it. I use my composting toilet. And so now I know when I'm in the van, it ain't nothing but a thing to use a composting toilet. And when I have a homestead, when I have my own RV park, when I have another place that I want to create and put together, I'll be using composting. I'm not going to use city sewer and all that stuff. And I believe eventually everyone, well, you know, when all the systems break down, I'm going to have to do something different. A lot of people are using composting toilets. So ask me any questions you have about how any of that works. I am here to serve.